and welcome to Good Grief, the podcast dedicated to demystifying and destigmatizing grief, compassion, and humor. I'm Nikki. I'm an end-of-life doula and a grief coach in Columbus, Ohio. And today, I am so excited to share. I always feel weird saying I'm excited to share a story of loss and tragedy, but I'm very excited about today's guest, another special guest episode. I got to have a great conversation with Mike Oppenheim from the Coffin Talk podcast. I was a guest on his podcast a couple of weeks prior, and we got to chatting before that recording, after, and we actually recorded two different episodes, one for his free version and one for his paid version of his podcast or subscription-based podcast, about what I do and about grief and loss. And he told me a little bit about a story of loss that he has suffered. And it was so heartbreaking and beautiful and tragic and all the things. And I was like, Mike, you have to share this story on my show if you are willing. And he said he's at that point where he's ready to start sharing the story with the world. So I am so honored that he was able and willing to share this story of the non-death loss of his son. I won't say anything else. I'll let him tell his story. And I'm very interested for you all to hear it. I've had some very great guests on the show, and my whole point of this podcast is to destigmatize grief, right? And not just death losses, but non-death losses as well, because those are disenfranchised grief. They're not as recognized. So people who are suffering these things feel so much more isolated and alone. So if anybody listening to this episode can identify with Mike, my heart goes out to you, and reach out to Mike. He even says in the episode he would love to hear from you if you're having a very similar situation, and you guys can bond and talk and help each other and all the great things. So, but all right. Either way, we need to get into the episode, but super quick. I'm so sorry. I have to say it. You can follow me over at patreon.com/Nikki the Death Doula. For as little as $1 a month, you can help me to provide pro bono support to those who cannot afford my services. You get early access to the podcast. You get grief affirmations. You get some bonus content throughout the month. All sorts of great things. You can follow me over there for some content for free. That would be great too. And more for the paid version. So, and if you want to be a VIP, you get a free coaching session once a month from me. That is all. Thank you all. I'm going to stop talking. We get right on to today's conversation with Mike Oppenheim of the Coffin Talk podcast. Hello, everybody. I am so excited this week to have my new best friend. We are best friends now. Mike Oppenheim of the Coffin Talk podcast. If you listen to his show, you've probably heard me on there once and maybe twice if you support him through the paid version of his podcast. But yeah, Mike, I want you to introduce yourself here. Tell us a little about you, your podcast, and why you're here today.
Sure. Okay, so I'll start with my podcast. Let's anchor with that. My podcast is called Coffin Talk, which is a pun on coffee talk, but it's about death and dying. And the reason that was started, to make a much longer story short, is that I was a hospice worker for about 4 years. And in my experiences with hospice, one thing led to another, and I realized that really there's just a dearth in America of people talking about death and dying ahead of time. Something I don't need to tell you of all people about,
Right.
but whereas you deal with grieving, I was dealing with preemptive grieving almost, if there's such a thing, like
Yeah.
whatever that side of it is. And so COVID came, wife and I were bored. Why not start a podcast? She's afraid of like being on TV or being heard, but she loves like the idea. So she was our producer for a very long time. And
Oh,
she still
awesome.
is in name, but we had two kids since then. So
Oh
she's
my.
also yeah, so she's still doing some work for the show. But the point is I don't think it would have lasted if it wasn't a collaborative effort for me because
Yeah.
and I think this actually ties into your podcast and what you do. If anything, death and dying has taught me that like collaboration is more important than anything, and being a perfect isolated individual who has all your ducks in a row is not actually pleasurable, enjoyable, fun, or how to live a life. So,
Yeah.
so the podcast can get messy, and I have to talk like you do. I talked
Yeah.
to one time I interviewed a neurosurgeon who did children's neurosurgeries, and
Mhm.
he didn't have a lot of survivors, and it's just like
Yeah.
so sometimes it can be hard. And then as far as myself, from what limited information I gave, I'm married. I have several kids. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm a writer actually, and then a podcaster also. So it's kind of weird that I'm
Yeah.
doing those two things, but depending on who meets me and how they know me. But it's today's what? It's 2025 in
Mhm.
May, and I can actually say this year has been a huge year in my life where I'm 43 going on 44, and I finally am relaxing. I just finally am like starting to see that like this boulder is just gonna keep
Yeah.
steamrolling down a hill, and I should just really enjoy it. So meeting
Yeah.
you and getting to know you and podcasting has really just it's become a totally different vehicle and
Mhm.
wonderful part of my life than I ever saw coming. So
Yay. I feel like a lot of podcasts came out of COVID
yeah, yeah.
because we had nothing better to do than sit at home with a
Oh
microphone.
no,
So,
crazy.
uh, I started mine 2 years after, so it's a little bit later in the game with that. But I will put all the links for Mike's stuff in the show notes too. But check out his podcast. I've been listening to it for a year or two now, and it's fantastic. And Substack too. You do some great writing on Substack. I love your writing.
Thank you so much. Seriously.
Yeah,
Yeah.
is so do you have a background with like creative writing or any type of writing too, or is this just something
Oh
you've
yeah.
been
No,
Okay.
definitely. I have an MFA, a Master of Fine Arts in creative fiction, and I also was a
Oh, nice.
writing teacher at college level and other levels. So I'm
Wow.
really into English. I was a grammar instructor. I'm like
Oh
everyone's worst
no.
nightmare, but I'm actually the most easygoing, relaxed person ever because I learned this in grammar training, like in my master's. But there's two types of grammarians. There's a prescriptivist and a descriptivist, and prescriptivists are what everyone associates with grammar, like these are the rules, follow them all. And a
Yeah.
descriptivist describes what's going on with the grammar, and that's what I am. So if we all want to say lol and that means laughing out loud and no one's actually laughing, I'm okay with that, and it's a
Yeah.
word. Like so that's I'm very easygoing with language, but I love it. I love it.
My mom's the other side.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, Mom. I'm sorry to call you out, Mom. I joke with her all the time when she corrects my grammar, and I said, Mom, when you correct people's grammar, it makes them think fewer of you.
I've
So
never heard that, and I'm repeating that to so many people from now
please
on.
do. It's my
That's
grammar joke.
awesome.
Even she
That's
loves
great.
it. So I always got the less and fewer thing mixed up for so long. I finally got it
Yeah.
mostly figured out. Anyway, we're getting in the weeds
Further,
now.
farther, they're all hard.
Oh, I get further and farther. I get those screwed up anyway. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm with you. As long as you're getting your point across and the person listening to you knows what the heck you mean, okay. Who
Yeah.
cares? You know? Anyway, so why I invited you on the show, you and I talked about this briefly, but I I like to explore different types of grief with people on this show. And it's not always just the death loss of somebody close to you. And I've had people on talking about death loss and non-death losses and pets and everything, but you have a very interesting story about your son, and I would love for
Mhm.
you to tell us just a little bit about that.
Yeah. And actually, this is the best time to ever ask me about it because I had a real reckoning in the last month about how to talk about this and why I should talk about it. So, in 2013, I married someone, and she was a U.S. citizen, but she is from the country of Thailand, and that's where she grew up. And the reason this matters is we ended up getting divorced with a son. And in the divorce proceedings, she only cared about one thing. We didn't go to court or anything, and that was the regular vacations to Thailand with our son. I was extremely skeptical, and I was more warranted in that than I thought because about 6 months after our divorce, she actually went to Thailand with her son and then never came back. I fought very hard legally to try to get my son back. The one thing I was not willing to do was threaten her or her family with jail time or any sort of like real punishment. And
Sure.
that's hard because I think people who do what she did do actually deserve punishment. But she's my son's mother, and I didn't want to complicate his life in any way. Sadly, because I took a peaceful approach to something unpeaceful, I just lost every step of the way, including a lot of money. And the reason I'm bringing all this up is that I decided after about 4 years to not talk about it and just to like preserve my son's dignity by not having like me on the internet talking about it. So I took down all my blog posts about it and everything else. But then it hit me that I talked to people who actually went through what my son is going through. One of the parents abducted them and either did or didn't lie about it because I don't really know what she's telling him.
Right.
And they told me it was the opposite, that they would love and did love to hear that their parent was fighting for them and that they wanted to see them and they wanted evidence of that. And they said, especially the younger they are, the more skeptical they're going to be. So now I'm in this
Right.
like weird place where I feel like I should be really candidly talking about what we're going
Mhm.
to talk about, which is the grief I have, the misery of waking up every day to something that isn't going to die, thankfully.
Mhm.
My son is alive. My son is definitely thriving. Last time I was able to see him and check in on him, the family he's with are wealthy. They're not like, he's not wanting for anything.
Right.
Yeah, except maybe his dad.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say because I like when we have talked, we've had good rapport. He made a hilarious joke the last time we Skyped, which was when he was about 6. Now he's going to be 9 soon. So
Mhm.
it's interesting. Over time, they just stopped returning emails, calls, and then even making accessible. I still have a written address that I mail things to, but for all I know, they throw everything away.
Right.
Um, but what I want to talk to your audience about, and what I'm here to talk to you about, is that I did have to make lemonade out of this. I did have to like create a great future in my own life and for my son. And that was the hardest decision slash period I've ever gone through in my life. I don't think anything will ever be
Yeah.
harder than and what's interesting is like you get really tested in your version of my situation, which I believe everyone has. I mean, we've talked about your brother and
Yeah.
like I really cannot um it's very frustrating when I tell this to people and they go, "Oh my God, that's the worst thing I've ever heard," or I could never deal with that." And I'm like, "No, you really could, and you would." And like,
Yeah.
same thing. Like when I was once in a wheelchair for a while after a car accident, and I used to say I could never be in a wheelchair. That's not true. I was in one. I would have like
Hmm.
given everything I could to
Yeah.
stay in one if that's the difference between living and dying. So
Yeah.
with grieving for my son, what was really hard is like the tests are just like they keep coming. Like the first test was, can you even like emotionally deal with this? And the answer is
Mhm.
no. I like my hair went gray. I was like, again, it sounds like petty, but I was losing all my money and I didn't get to see my son. Like it was like
Yeah.
everything that Americans value. I was like trading all of it, and I don't like drinking. I like drugs in like a fun college sense, but I'm not like into like I don't seek refuge through
Yeah.
substances. And I guess maybe food a little bit, but like none of that worked. I was like I lost like 20 pounds. I wasn't eating. I was just like um so depressed and so distraught. And so I really decided that I have to give back. So that's when I started hospice care. So it's really linked in. And I started giving back and I started watching people die and I started watching different people's lives end and how people deal with it. I saw people fighting about money in front of an aging person in a hospital bed. And it helped. It helped me to help them. It helped them to help me. I would open up to some people. I even had one patient who like outlived her diagnosis by over a year, and we became like really
Wow.
close friends. Yeah, and I shouldn't say this because it's illegal, but I ended up visiting her at her house after she left hospice because she was better.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, I want to inspire people to know that like no matter what, and especially right now with people getting so angry about politics and stuff, it's not an excuse to not be nice to people, and it's not an excuse to give up. Like, I mean, sure, it's an excuse. I shouldn't say that. It is an excuse. That's exactly what it is. It's a definition of an excuse. But
Right.
really, like, I hope to help people see that like the light at the end of the tunnel gets brighter and stronger, and every
Mm.
day you march towards it, you do see it bigger and bigger. I ended up
Yeah.
meeting someone great. I'm remarried. I'm very happy. I have 2 more kids, like,
Mhm.
and my 2 kids don't replace my son, but and I mention him to them, so they're gonna like be really excited to meet their brother, and I hope things
Aw.
work out. I know they will on some like weird intuitive sense. Like I just kind of get the feeling that, he'll he'll contact me at some point again and
Yeah.
I'll have to deal with whatever I have to deal
Yeah.
with, but
Yeah. Let's hope. Let's hope
mhm.
some way down the line he starts wondering, about his dad and maybe
Yeah.
reaches out to you. So I love, and I know we talked about this before, but I love what you said about the I could never. I hear this a lot, and it frustrates me too. I spoke with somebody who lost her mother to cancer. She was 16 when her mom was dying, and her dad he couldn't deal with it and just kind of was there, but not there. So she was doing
Mhm.
everything. At 16, she was the sole caregiver for her mom who was dying. And so many times people were like, "Oh my gosh, you're so brave. I could never. You're a hero." And she's like, "I didn't have a choice."
Yeah.
It's not like she was so brave she decided I'm going to be a caregiver at 16 for her dying mother. No, it was thrust upon her and she just did the best she could with it, right?
Yeah.
And there's that happens to so many of us when we have losses and people are like, "Oh my God, I don't know, I could never do that." Well, you can,
Yeah.
you might
Totally.
have to, right?
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
it's yeah, it's really intense, and I think like counseling and friendship and camaraderie is so important. Like what you do, like I could have known it was important, but now I like really understand it. Like it is you don't want to burden people. I had so many friends fly out and visit me, and it like I mean heartbreaking how many people like came out to support me, and how many friends I have who like just tried to show me their love. But like you said, it's really, you said this on my podcast.
yeah,
It's really hard to like ask for help, and when people say like just let me know if I can do something, like that doesn't work. Like you need to um like there you need professional help is what I'm trying to say.
right,
Like
right.
it,
Yeah,
it does matter, yeah, because you don't want to
yeah.
feel like you're using people.
I'm always saying that on my show. If you need professional help, that's not a bad thing. And
Yeah,
if
exactly.
you need it, get it. It's a wonderful tool that can help you. So, and you use the term making lemonade, which
Hmm.
I love and appreciate, but I want to kind of expand on that a little bit because
Hmm.
it's not like this is a good situation or it's crappy, but I'm going to try to do something great. It is. You're trying to make something good out of a crappy situation. And I had somebody on my podcast a long time ago, Hope Rieger from Grief to Hope. She lost her son to murder. And she could have, yeah, her son was murdered and he was 18, 19, very young. She even said, she's like, I could have just given up on life at that point, crawled into a hole and never gotten out of bed again. But I didn't decided not to. And she started this nonprofit to help other people who have lost children to violence. And like, I love hearing stories like that. It doesn't mean that it doesn't suck, though,
Yeah, yeah,
right? You're
yeah,
trying
yeah.
so hard to make something good from this, but it still sucks. Is it valid for me to say that?
It's very valid. And I think one of the most common weird moments in my life is at least once a week. I just have to like look my wife in the eyes and just say, I am in hell. Like this is terrible. And like her like job and in a good way is just to like hear that
Yeah.
and just say I'm sorry. And what I never want to hear is like chipper advice. I just want someone to acknowledge what you said, which is this
Yeah.
sucks. And then I want to move on though. I do want to,
Yeah.
like, if I wallow in this sucks, I'm actually victimizing myself and just being like, I don't want to use I'm self-deprecating, but I don't want other people to think I'm talking about them. So I won't like use the words I would use for other people, but for
Right.
myself, I have no self-respect if I'm like asking people to give me pity when I already have self-pity, and
Yeah.
and self-pity isn't helpful to me. So when I say like make lemonades, you're right. Like it's just like go out and take a walk, find like a stupid errand to run. Like that was what I did in like the first couple days, like um and again like nothing was like working. Like I didn't want to date, I didn't want to like there was no
Yeah.
like when there's like a big hole in your heart, um you're not thinking about anything. And like your favorite, like my favorite comedian came to town, and I went like with a friend, and I just remember sitting there just thinking about my son the whole time. I wasn't listening to the words. So yeah, make lemonade, to me, like starting that the Hope Foundation is like great.
Yeah.
What I've done more or less is just try to talk to other people, but I do have like a community here in Phoenix that I regularly run, like a writers group and a writers workshop, and I
Oh,
dedicate a lot of time to that. Yeah, so I try to like I like it with hospice too. Like since all of my time as a single dad for that stretch where I was one,
mhm.
was spent with my son, I just took that time and decided to make sure it was like charitable, that I didn't
Yeah.
transfer it into work.
Yeah. And I have to reinstill this in my clients all the time that I work with who are grieving that it's okay to be upset and to be sad and to be hurt and to be angry and whatever you feel, all that's okay. And it's okay to acknowledge that this situation sucks because you're going to hear all the platitudes, give it time and you'll feel better and things will heal and blah, blah, blah. And like, while that might be true, that sometimes is not what somebody wants to hear in the moment.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? It's like, I know for me, I heard that shit pardon my French, all the time when my brother died. Like, just give it time and you'll feel better. And it's like, I don't feel good right now, though. And I just want somebody to
Yeah,
acknowledge that this sucks. He
yeah,
shouldn't have died. I'm mad. I'm hurt. I'm sad. Like all the things, right?
yeah, yeah. There's that famous Becker book with like the five emotions or whatever, the
Yeah.
bargaining
Yep.
denial. And I know it's been like debunked, but like it's also totally true. Like I went through them in a insane order and like
Yeah.
over and over again. But
Yeah.
you like the bargaining is the weirdest one where you're just
Yeah.
like and it is, and it's oh, that I would say actually the lemonade of all lemonades, and I really do mean this, is my sense of I can control things like is gone. Like
Yeah.
that part of me, and that's what, again, just to allude to like geopolitics and what's going on in the world. A lot of the anger, I think, is from people who still have this desire to control their own
Mm.
reality, and
Yeah.
so it's not that I've given up on politics or caring about the good fight or whatever else people want us to talk
Hmm.
about. The difference is like the absurd illusion of control is it is relieving to have that removed. And I know it happened with your brother because the way you just described it, like it shouldn't have happened, is exactly right. Like
Right. Yeah.
I've never met anyone who doesn't say like your ex deserves, and like
Right.
we agree in theory, but guess what?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Yeah, it shouldn't have happened was he was only 40, right? He
yeah.
should have been there to walk his daughter down the aisle when she got married. He blah blah blah. He would have been a grandfather this past week. My
Oh,
nephew and his
wow.
girlfriend just had their first baby and he would have been a
That's
grandpa.
awesome.
I know,
Wow.
he would have been anyway, we're getting to the weeds again. But
No, but that's great. I mean,
um yeah, so I want to kind of circle back a little bit to your son leaving. And
mhm.
part of the reason why I wanted to share this is I'm sure there are people out there that actually I've spoken to at least one other person who has lost a child in their life in this manner. A spouse took
Okay.
them away and they have never seen them since. And it wasn't a matter of they didn't deserve to have that child in their life or they were a bad person. It was just their spouse said, I'm out. Right. And like the grief that must come along with that. Because that's another one of these things like when we talk about grief, we talk about again death, we talk about um, you know, losing a spouse or a parent, or but we never talk about the non-death losses of family, right?
Mhm.
So how, what was that like in the first few months when you realized like he's not coming back, she's taken him, and I'm not going to get to see him. I may never see him again.
Oh no, it was denial. It was just straight up
Really?
like, I'm gonna win this case. I'm not gonna win this case, but I'm gonna learn Thai. I'm gonna become a best-selling Thai author. I'm gonna be so popular in Thailand that he's gonna like beg his parents to take me to like a book tour. Like I just like whatever fantasy I could like paint uh to make sure. And then like one woman I really deeply respect who was helping me, like she's not technically a therapist, but I would just say for the purposes of how I was interacting with her, it was a therapist. She just kept maintaining the course, which is like, okay, that's great, but like, what if he doesn't come back? And
Right.
and what if that doesn't work? Like, keep trying, learn Thai. I did. I learned Thai. I like learned my son's language so I
That's
can like speak it with
impressive.
him. I'm terrible at it. I haven't practiced in a while. But but that like constant reinforcement of like acceptance, like the opposite of denial, was really important. And I think that for me is the hardest part of grieving. I'm an optimist. I'm like a buoyant optimist and then some. So to like to like have friends like look me in the eye, and I'm really good at reading the room. I could tell when they were just like, yeah, this is pathetic. Like you're not going to see your son again. And the funny thing is I did see him again. I saw him again and again and again because they were scared of the law enough to the extent that they were trying to pretend it was amicable. And that's the other thing is I used to be really defensive. And I was like, they wrote a letter explaining why they did it. The
Mhm.
divorce went amicable. We split everything. I had even custody. Like I used to feel the need to say that because from my perspective of hurt and pain, and this is getting more into your question,
Mhm.
which is like, I started to question like the term gaslighting, but like not from my ex, just like personal gaslighting. Like, did I deserve this? Did I do like maybe I wasn't, so that was a part of
Mhm.
it too. so then it was like important to reinforce like, no, I'm a good dad, but also not to like overdo it, and then also not vilifying villains. Like
Right.
these people did take my son, but it does not help to wake up every day angry, and the dreams of like getting revenge were not pleasant at
Right.
all, and I'm not a revenge type person, obviously. So
Yeah.
um yeah, so the when acceptance came, it was heartbreaking and heart relieving. It was like
Yeah.
two really weird feelings at once,
I
and
bet.
it was weird. And I remember the day, like I don't remember like what day on the calendar, but I remember I was somewhere and I forgot to tell the story, if that makes sense. I forgot to
Yeah.
tell like how they did it, who they are, what they, and I just said my son lives in Thailand, and it was like the most peaceful feeling ever to just be like
Mhm.
talking to someone and they're like, "Oh, you have a son?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, he lives in Thailand with his mom." And it was like I just like that's acceptance. Like that's
Yeah.
100% true. He does live in Thailand and he does live with his mom. Like
Yeah.
I don't need to tell people this story. And then if it comes up, I can. And by the way, I would love to talk to whoever it was that you know personally, because I'm
Yeah.
always helped talking to other people if that ever
Yeah.
is possible. So
Yeah.
yeah, because
It's
that's the other thing is talking to people really helps.
Oh yeah, and that's again why I wanted to have you on the show in case there's somebody out there listening that is going through this or has gone through this that needs to hear that other people experience this and that what they're feeling is valid. Um, I appreciate that you brought up acceptance because that's a tricky thing that I deal with my clients who have terminal illness. And I will
Mhm.
never tell anybody you need to accept it. Acceptance is sneaky that way. You will or you won't accept things, right? There is, and you said it perfectly, like there's good and bad with that.
Mhm.
There's the freedom of finally just saying, this is happening. It's
Yeah.
almost like the step one in Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm powerless.
Yeah.
There's nothing I can do. This exists, right? But it's almost like it feels like you're giving up in a way.
Yeah. Yes. You nailed it. And it's I'm not a quitter. I've been
Yeah,
writing since I was 20, and like it doesn't matter if I reach my goals. I don't quit things. Like if I'm at the
yeah,
gym and I say 30 minutes, I'm gonna do 30 minutes. Like
yeah,
so it was it did feel like quitting. That's the perfect, and it was,
yeah.
yeah, like I said, it more silver lining, more lemonade. It's just like my character and my integrity is improved. My
Mhm.
compassion for others, my compassion for myself actually finally is improved. It was pretty low for a while, but
Yeah.
it like I do kind of sometimes I'm just like this is a weird example, but I think it might relate to some people. Like I'll hear someone complain. They're like, this person at work, they got like the better donut than me or something, and I just want to scream at them. I just want to be like, my fucking son lives in fucking, and like, um, and so it's
Right?
it's actually like, yeah, it's like good for me to like experience that, not act on it, and then
Right.
also think, well, how many times have you said to like the person at Rite Aid, like, hey, this was supposed to be on sale for this much, and they're like, yeah, like my sister died in, like last
Right.
night in a plane crash, like just something like
Yeah.
because even like you, like with your brother specifically, just because I like relating like
Hmm.
trauma to trauma, like I'm sure like you still had to do a job, you still had to go to work, you still have to like do things, and you have to like, this is America, like the customer's always right. I don't know what you worked in at the time, but my
Yeah.
point is that was like really hard too, like going to work and like
Yeah.
putting on this face.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is, and I like the comparison of like this thing was supposed to be on sale. Well, my son's been kidnapped by my ex, right? And I
Yeah.
know we do those things, and that's not, I mean, obviously if you say it out loud, you're gonna make them feel bad because everybody's
Yeah.
entitled
Yeah.
to the maybe that donut was something they were really looking forward to that day and they're really upset and they're valid and it's okay to have that response. So comparing griefs is never going to benefit anybody, but it's perfectly natural to think that, right? And I've thought that too when people are like, so and so, like I broke up with my boyfriend. I'm like, yeah, well, my brother died.
Yeah.
These are two very
Exactly.
different things,
Yeah.
but we do that as humans. It's okay. Just kind of keep it in there. Keep it rated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, there was something you said, or God, I keep having all these thoughts. We had
No,
this
that's okay.
problem when I was on your show too. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
I
totally.
want to touch this, and then it disappears. Um, so when it'll come back to me, so I'll circle back to something I wrote down like 10 minutes ago.
That's cool.
Um, one thing I really appreciated that you mentioned is you are remarried and you have new kids,
Hmm.
new kids now with your spouse. But you specifically said they don't replace your son. And
Yeah.
I feel like I'm gonna say this. I've said this before in the show. This really pisses me off. I was at a funeral for somebody who lost a child to SIDS, an infant, and somebody at the funeral said to her, "You can have more kids one day." Like, yeah, yeah. So that completely dismisses this whole life, this whole beautiful, precious child she had and lost, right?
Oh man, that is like
Uh-huh.
I had one person said something awful to me. I don't even remember like the wording, but I had that moment once, and it's I just think people crack under pressure. They don't know what the
Right.
hell they're saying, maybe. And I
I
always try to give
know.
that room. But I will say, I was fearful of having more kids. I was fearful
Sure.
of my son thinking I replaced him. I've actually
Yeah.
heard people say, like, oh, my dad's second family is his real family. Obviously, he like care, and like, there's no way for my son not to see that from like a 9-year old's
Right.
perspective if he wants to see it that way. But I was scared. I wasn't scared to remarry, not at all. That
Yeah.
was easy. But I was very scared to have another child. And then it wasn't until my second child got to the same age my son was when he was abducted that I was able to see just how like different and unique the experience is and
Mhm.
they are and all that, and then not to feel like that pressure. But there are times where my wife will actually look at me and she'll be like, "You're," and this sounds like I'm just like trying to like sound like a smarmy like good guy, but like she'll say like, "You're such a good dad. Like I can't believe someone would deprive your son of this." And that is the most heartbreaking thing is I begged my wife to have a kid. She wasn't really planning on having kids. I my whole life I wanted children. I don't know why. I can't really explain it. I just did. And
Yeah.
I had visions as a kid of holding a son's hand and looking down at his head, and one day that came true, and it was one of the weirdest moments of my life. And so it's just interesting that I guess my life journey is raising two of my kids and not raising one of them after
Yeah.
like a certain age, and uh but I'm so glad I had more children. And the other thing I did, and I really do mean this, and if my son ever watches this, I hope he hears this. I wanted to give him siblings. I wanted to give him people, like, even if he hates me and never wants to talk to me again, I gave him two sisters now,
Yeah.
and they have a lifelong bond, and he's not like alone. He has like someone,
Mhm.
to talk to when times are rough, hopefully, and all that. And they can look each other up and find each other.
Yeah.
I mean, my situation is peculiar because I have no access to him now. Like I can only write that thing,
Yeah.
but all the way up until a year and a half ago, I could sort of get a response from him on like a Skype chat, and then he would occasionally video call. So I
Yeah.
really like my son knows me. He knows like we have a good rapport, a sense of humor, and all that kind of stuff. I gave him like a video game once for his birthday, and he was like jumping for joy and wanted to play with
Oh.
me. So I have like substantial memories. So even if he's like, mom told me the truth. You beat her and you did drugs and you kicked us out and you wouldn't, even if he says like
Yeah.
some outlandish story, I'm prepared to very patiently wait that out and just
Mhm.
let time and my track record
Yeah.
speak for itself.
Good. Good. I remembered the other thing I had
Cool.
thought
Awesome.
about. I wrote it down while you were talking. I was like, don't forget. Because you had just referenced this again. I see this unfortunately in elder care a lot when it comes to people with Alzheimer's, but we see this in divorce all the time. When people use other human beings as pawns,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's the whole like we're mad at each other and I have this human being I'm going to put in the middle of it and use that. I don't, I've never personally been in that situation, so I don't understand it. I can't fathom if my husband and I had a child, which we do not, but even if I just, for whatever reason, hated him with the core of my being, I can't understand using my child to further that hate for him. I just don't get it.
Yeah. And to your point, my wife at the height of the worst argument we ever got in, like ever, 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 even said to me, even if we were to like end this and this doesn't work out, I would never take you like in that moment of like seething, you're married.
Yeah.
Like we all get like
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah.
those moments exist. Like
Oh yeah.
if you've been married for like a year, you're probably thinking, ah, it's just for them. But like marriages are hard and there's like real emotional moments, and even in those my wife has always said like, I still respect and value that. And so actually that's why I got divorced was I was married to someone who was starting to do that and doing that. And so, and again, I'm this is the part where I do try to be careful. I don't want to talk too much about my son's mom because she
Right.
is his mom and all that. So, but yes, we saw a couples counselor together and they recommended we get a divorce. They said, your son's turning too soon. This is the time to do it if you're going to
Right.
continue to fight the way you fight.
Yeah.
So we did. I would say in a good way, we got a divorce for our son. And then I also would say to her real credit, she hates America, didn't want to live here. That was a lot of our fights were over moving back to Thailand. So she just
Okay.
wanted to move to Thailand and just doesn't care about me. And that's really like there's no
Okay.
the most hurtful part of her taking him, so not missing my son, but the most hurtful part is she and her family don't think I matter. They just think dads are like kind of stupid and
Sure.
yeah, and I think they were very surprised that I called the State Department and even like fought it or did anything. I think they
Wow.
were shocked. I think they thought I was just gonna be like, all right, phew, I don't have to
Yeah.
deal with all that BS,
Oh
so
my
which is
gosh.
crazy, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's still it's one of those things I will never grasp. I just
Yeah. And I saw it
um
too at hospice a lot, so
oh
yeah.
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 I'm seeing it currently with an Alzheimer's patient.
Ugh, yeah.
Family members are
So
fighting
hard.
over who has guardianship of her, and the one that really wants it isn't taking care of this person. So it's just like anyway.
Yeah.
Um so if you speak to somebody out there listening who might be going through something like this right now, what advice, what would you tell somebody who might be experiencing what you are, something similar to what you've been through?
Um, don't give up on yourself. I'm not telling you you should or shouldn't give up on the issue at hand, the person you're missing or people you're missing or thing you're missing, but you matter. You've always mattered. You've always mattered more to yourself than other people seem to. And while I do question that from like a Buddhist perspective and other like, mind exercises, at the end of the day, if you're not loving yourself and taking care of yourself, you're actually a burden to the people around you, even if it's just your neighbors or like the system, because the last thing this world needs is a bitter, negative, depressed person who's embracing that. Um, this world has bitter, negative, depressed people, and we have to have compassion for that and care about it. And there should be more services for that, not less. And I also believe we should be training children resilience, emotional resilience, and like things that you have to regularly try to teach adults
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
last second when it's the least easy time to deal
Yeah.
with it. And so I would say like uh do seek help, do seek friendship. I This is for me, but it's just kind of universal. If you hike, take walks, like nature
Yeah.
does have a therapy
Yep.
value to it.
Hmm.
That like touch grass thing is the only like Gen Z like millennial meme that I actually like it's like
Oh,
the only thing.
me too.
Yeah, I like always like it when I see it. I'm like, yeah, no, that like you guys got something right.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
and there's not like a group of dads who lost children out there. Like I kind of searched for it and I thought
Mhm.
about starting one, but like I don't really, that's not my identity in this situation. So, and also I think other people have it a lot harder than I do because at least I like knew his mailing address and those kind of things.
Yeah.
But I would say if you give up on yourself, uh there is turning back, but the collateral damage and the consequential damage will be really hard to undo. Like I deleted my entire Facebook after it because I was like upset and I didn't want to like be on social media.
Sure.
And unfortunately, I forgot that there was an ex-boyfriend of hers who had written me something before we dated. And I
Um,
probably could have gotten in touch with him and been able to like have more support with the State Department with him. And
yeah.
then on top of that, like I lost contact with like all these former students I taught. And so I know this sounds like maybe weird or petty to people, but like
Yeah.
just slow down. Like especially
Yeah.
in the first couple days or weeks, don't quit your job, don't shave your head, don't tell someone F off. Like I would just say like
Yeah.
stay the course for a couple weeks and just
Hmm.
see where you land from that.
Yeah, I caution that with my clients too that are grieving who have a new grief. Like if it's within the first 6 months, do
Yeah.
not make any big life choices. That is the
Yeah.
wrong, and I can't tell you how many have done it
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
completely ignored me, and then they're like, oh shit. I'm like, I'm not going to say I
Yeah.
told you so because that's not my place, but this is why we don't make big life choices when we're grieving. Let
Yeah.
things settle a little bit first. So thank you for that. So
Yeah.
all right. So as you know, at the end of my episodes, I have a little tradition where I pull a card from the death deck and I will read the question and you will answer it and I will answer. However, today I'm going to pull from the end of life deck. So we've got
Ooh,
it's a little bit smaller and these are questions more geared towards end of life versus just death. So
cool.
one at random here and let's see what we got. All right. Oh, this is perfect. Death doulas provide additional specialized support during serious illness. Would you ever consider involving a death doula in your care?
100%, absolutely. And I really like you. So you're the first death duel I ever met, and I didn't even know the term until I met you. And what
Okay.
blows my mind is when I tell people the term, they know it. So your occupation is actually doing what it should do, which is making waves and getting known. And I think
Yay.
in a country that is, look, we might be progressive, we might have invented like awesome spaceships and like conquered the moon and all that, but we are so laughably behind when it comes to what you do,
Yep.
which is like actually preparing ahead of time. And
Hmm.
this is really what I keep trying to tell people. Take advantage of these of you and people like
Yeah.
you. Like don't be like, oh, that's for other people or whatever. And also, especially, and it sounds like I'm shilling for you, but money does not matter when you're grieving and stuff. You would never want to have like more cash and be lonely and
Oh
sad
my gosh,
and
right?
you know, so
Yeah.
so like just pay for what you need and what you can get. And like I definitely will do it. I think in the coming years when I lose my parents, I say when because I have to phrase it that way. It actually goes back to what we talked about with acceptance.
Yeah.
Um, Even though I know I have to do it, and even though I did hospice, and even though that was like primarily what I saw was elderly people passing, it's not going to be easier for me. It's not going to be different in like any way,
Yeah.
and it's going to like really be hard. And again, it's for me, this is how I look at it. If you keep calling the same friend and talking to them about something, at some point they actually do develop a little bit of animosity. They get
Yeah.
tired of being your free therapist, and they also
Hmm.
get tired of like they have no practical experience, they have no professional training, they don't know what to tell you to help you get better. So
Yeah.
it actually makes sense and feels better to pay a professional to get help like this because you can cut it when you need to.
Right.
It's not like awkward, and if anything, because we talked about this on my show, you will actually suggest sometimes like,
Yeah.
hey, we this has run its course
Yeah.
in like a good way.
Yeah.
So I just think it's and also a professional like has to listen to you, but like not in a negative way. I know it
Right.
sounds negative the way I'm saying it, but like you don't feel bad, and like and you can like get into the weeds, you can say the petty things, the thoughts you're
Yeah.
having, the anger, like because there's so much anger and grief for
Oh
me,
yeah.
like at least yeah.
Yeah. There's so many feelings that you or thoughts you might be having that you'd be scared to tell even your best friend.
Yeah.
So
Scared as hell, and they scare you. Like they're really
right. You don't
scary.
want them to
Yeah.
judge you because I'm
Yeah.
feeling a little joyful that this person is gone. Like,
Yeah.
because that happens. They're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I can't ever. Yeah, tell me, I don't care.
Yeah.
And like you said about your friend not wanting to burden your friends, there's such thing as compassion fatigue. It exists, right? And your
Yeah.
friends feel it quicker. It's
Yeah.
unfortunate but true. Like they're there for you, but after a while, it's like, I've heard enough of this. I can't stand it anymore. So
Totally.
as for me, absolutely I would hire a death doula, obviously. Um, I don't know. I've already said I won't be a doula for any of my family members because I want to be in a capacity of family member, not doula. If whether or not they would use one, I might use one for me just to help me with my process as my parents go, because I know that's going to happen one day.
Yeah.
So yes, I absolutely would. I love that we exist. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
all right.
It's
Well, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I take issue with some of the funeral business industry,
Yeah.
and I'm open about that on my show, and I even ask people in it what they think about it. But
Mhm.
I will say this, what you do has nothing to do with that because
Yeah.
you're there before and during and after for
Yeah.
someone,
Mhm.
whereas what I am shocked and a little saddened by is like the idea of like upselling at a funeral home and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So like, I just I want to reinforce that because I think again, I think mental health is something this country was late to embrace. And if
Mhm.
I don't even know if I'd use the word embrace. I would say we're still arguing
Oh,
about
we're
it.
still working
So
on it.
yeah, so yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So we have just a few minutes left here. Is there anything else you would like to add and about you, your son, anything?
I think to my son, I would just like to actually heartfelt speak to you and just say, if for some reason you come across this or you're able to see this, whatever age you are and you're watching it, I
Mhm.
love you. I've always loved you. I always will love you. And I am waiting with open arms and also with a bank account that's prepared to help you. So I am, I'm planning on a lot for him. And my wife and I, when we got married, agreed we'd always have a room that he could live in if
Yeah.
he wants to and all that. So.
Oh, I
If you're
love.
watching, Tyler, I love you, and thank you, Nikki.
Yeah, of course. All right. So now it is your chance to tell my listeners where they can find you, your podcast, your Substack, all those good things. So take the floor.
Yeah, everything. The easiest way to help me, and it's free, is just to head over to my website, which is www.mikeyop.com. And if you sign up for free, you get 4 posts a month, and then there's also premium stuff. And the podcast doesn't get sent to you by email, but there's it posts on it, and you can also subscribe for that on like any app. It's just called Coffin Talk, Coffin space talk. I believe 3 other people started a Coffin Talk podcast recently, which
Ah,
is weird because I would think that you would just like look up names and not do it, but I don't really care. But
yeah.
anyway, it's mine's the one with my name, Mike Oppenheim, on it and all that. So
Awesome. Yeah. And I'll put a link to it in the description.
cool,
And
awesome.
actually, when I came up with my podcast, I just did it. I was like, oh, I'm going to do Good Grief because I think that's fun. And there's like 10 other podcasts called Good
Yeah,
Grief out there. So
that's why that yeah,
if
that's
any
why
of
I
the
don't care.
yeah, if any of the people listening to those podcasts are listening here, I didn't do that on purpose. I promise. I just thought it was great, and then I realized that a bunch exist. So my bad.
Well, I replaced one, so I found one that stopped doing it a year before I
Oh,
started. So
there
yeah,
you
so
go.
it's all
You just took
fair. Yeah,
over.
exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Mike, this was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I so appreciate it, and I know my listeners do too. So thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you, and thanks for doing the show. I think it's really good that you do what you do.
All right, another huge shout out and thank you to Mike for sharing his story. Mike, mwah, I love you. You're fantastic. You're such a beautiful human. Please, I put links to his stuff in the show notes. Please go follow him, especially on his Substack. He is such a fantastic writer. He has some great essays out there, so please go follow him. And I'm also on Substack if you'd like to come follow me. I'm Nikki the Death Doula there. You can find me on my website, nikkithedeathdoula.com. If you want to get merch for this show, I've got t-shirts, journals, stickers. Go check that out, nikkithedeathdoula.com/podcast. You can find links to my previous guests. You can find my merch. You can find books from some of my previous guests. All of that's right there on that page. And if you have a story you would like to share on my show, you can sign up there as well. There's a little link. You'll fill out a little form and let me know if you'd like to be on the show. So that is all. You know where to find me. You know all the things. Thank you so much for tuning in. And remember, as always, your grief is yours. Your feelings are valid. And grief doesn't always have to suck. Good Grief with Nikki the Death Doula is produced by Nikki Smith of Nikki the Death Doula LLC in Columbus, Ohio. Nikki the Death Doula LLC is for consulting, education, emotional support, and guidance, and is no way considered a funeral establishment or licensed mental health establishment. Scripts, editing, sound design, literally everything with this podcast is done solely by Nikki Smith of Nikki the Death Doula LLC, with the exception of the music. The music is Cheery Monday by Kevin MacLeod. Licensing information can be found at filmmusic.io.